Okay, so I was asked to do a video on loza from exposing the manosphere. It was a conversation on colorism, and I found it really interesting. I actually liked watching the whole video. I disagreed, obviously, but I didn't feel like, well, I felt like these were some things I wanted to point out. For one, I don't know how well she understands English, because it's like she kept using the term colorism when she was really describing racism, and then using colorism and racism interchangeably. For one, she kept talking about her experiences with racism and some of the things she received from other people across the world, specifically in the Middle East and South Asia and in Canada. She's never been in America, one, so it's like, I don't see why this has to do with what goes on here, but claiming that it's worldwide, well, some of the things she described, she said that because she was a black woman, people called her the N-word in their language in Syria, Yemen, Pakistan, and so forth. If you think of it, that had nothing to do with her being dark-skinned, because she's not dark-skinned after all, is she? She put that out there, that she's specifically brown-skinned, and she also put out there that basically they were going to call her that no matter what her color was. It didn't matter if she was dark, brown, or light-skinned. They were going to say that about her because she was black. So how the heck is this colorism? Nothing she pointed out had to do with the skin tone. Particularly in Pakistan, there's many Pakistanis that are brown, just like her. They didn't get called these names. They weren't treated negatively because they were dark, because it's not a color issue. It's based off of being black. I am not unaware that there is anti-blackness in the world. Of course, that is worldwide, but that is not colorism. That is racism. Then she goes on to talk about white supremacy and how white people are seen above, Asians, natives, and black people are at the bottom. Now, I want to know, how does that have to do with colorism when you specifically said black people were at the bottom? That includes you, lady. It includes light skins. It includes dark skins. It includes mixed people even, because they all get put in the black category. So, trying to claim that this is about colorism, it's not about colorism. If it's an in-house thing that you're talking about, for example, she was talking about the whole thing with Asians. Asians being darker were seen as a negative, and they would push the fairer-skinned Asians and the fairer-skinned Indians. Again, this has got nothing to do with America. And it's got nothing to do with black people even, because this is within Asian cultures and Indian cultures. Now, if you want to talk about Africa and what they do there, again, that's got nothing to do with America. See, in America, the majority is not black. If the majority is not black, and basically the majority does not decipher whether you're light or dark, it doesn't care. And she displayed this very well with what she was talking about when she interacted with people of other races who were racist to her. They didn't care. It was irrespective of how dark she was that they were racist towards her. They were racist based off of her being black. Here in America, it's quite the same. They are basically, I don't think our country is extremely racist, one, but I'm saying the way black people have always been viewed was, we are black and it's irrespective of our color. So that's just how it is, you know. And I find it really crazy this lady is trying to come up with different experiences dark-skinned women have experienced. Yet she knows nothing about dark-skinned women because she's never been around one and she was not even raised by one. So I don't understand how she knows what dark-skinned women's experiences are. It's for me, it's very telling when you live a life, like for me, for instance, when you live with dark-skinned women and you realize you are treated worse than them. It's not about their skin tone. It's more so just about someone may have disliked you more for being black than another. It's not on skin tone. I've experienced sometimes where I got more racism than someone who was dark-skinned. And I've experienced maybe one time a dark-skinned person was experiencing racism and I was not. But that was only because she got on the bus first. So to me, I mean, like, from my perspective, when you are actually around dark-skinned people and you actually see how people interact with you and them, and you see that, no, it doesn't really matter, they're still going to be racist to you based off of being black if they choose to be racist to you on that matter. Also, one other thing. Obviously, if colorism existed, black people would not be confused for each other. And we get confused for each other in different complexions. Like, there will be light-skinned people who are confused for dark-skinned people outside of our race. People will confuse brown skin with light skin and dark skin at different occasions. I've had it many times where I was confused for someone who was actually light skinned, or I was confused for someone who was actually dark skinned. So, I mean, if they could really tell the difference between someone who's light skinned and dark skinned, they wouldn't make these mistakes, because in these situations they don't actually want to make these mistakes. Usually it's important for them to remember who's who, so they don't really want to do that. So anyway, that's just one other point I wanted to make. And it just, to me, was like, you're coming from a place of, you're saying that you experience racism and then you're calling it colorism. I don't know, maybe you're not aware of the English language, but colorism is not the same thing as racism. Racism is when people are beating you down, calling you the N-word in their language, treating you like trash because you're black. That is racism. That's not colorism. Nobody mentioned anything about the skin tone. And something else she said was them comparing her to chocolate. People have done way worse things than that one. And like the whole thing about people comparing people's skin tone to feces, for example. And you can see people of other races will do that to light-skinned people, brown-skinned people, and dark-skinned people. So I mean, saying that these things are pertaining to being darker-skinned, you can tell it's not. Because if it was, then she would notice that she didn't experience as much racism, because they would be like, oh, it's a brown-skinned woman, a brown-skinned black woman. We can't attack her because she doesn't have the dark skin that we need to be racist against her. That's not how it works, you know. And she pointed out that it saved her from any racism, because it's not going to, because racism does not care what your color is. It cares that you're black, and that's it. So that's why, to me, it was just like, it was weird to me, because it's like, why are you listing all these things that have to do with racism? Not a dang thing you mentioned had to do with colorism. Then on top of it, you're trying to tell me what dark-skinned women deal with or what their experiences are. I can tell that, honestly, having a dark-skinned mother, my mother, many of the time, gets treated much better than light-skinned black women. It's not about always skin tone. Sometimes it's also about other things, other factors like class and so forth. How one talks, how one where one is from, what kind of family they're from. There's so many other different things that go on. But the point is, being dark-skinned or being brown-skinned or being light-skinned, people are going to see you as black. Yes, black racism exists. That's not colorism. And, I mean, people need to get their definitions straight. That's just all I have to say on this, basically. I wanted to also address one other thing that she mentioned. She had mentioned something about American slavery, which, I mean, like, if you haven't even been here, please keep your nonsense to yourself. She was trying to say that light-skinned black women were more expensive and lighter-skinned men were less expensive during the slave trade. And it's like, she said it because light-skinned women were seen as attractive and light-skinned men were seen as less men. You have to understand, who is doing this, okay? Who was in control of the slave trade? It was white men. You really mean to tell me that white men thought that dark-skinned black men were men and they were girls? They are literally light-skinned. Duh! Like, seriously, it did not take much to actually think before you speak. Like, obviously they didn't think dark-skinned black men were men or manly. What do you think they are? They are keeping men in hostage and in captive, and in some cases they're doing really bad things to those men. Very emasculating things, basically. So, you mean to tell me that they thought that they were men? No, they didn't. They said that they were 3/5 of a man. And on the light-skinned female, obviously they did not think they were attractive. The standard of beauty was white women, which were the actual light-skinned women. So, I mean, like, this is nonsense. I don't understand why this lady said things without thinking. You know, she said it like she started trying to claim colorism without realizing that's racism. That's not colorism. What you're talking about that's worldwide has to do with anti-black racism, not colorism. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows that people look negatively on black people. So, I mean, this is not a shock. This is my whole point. My whole point is the fact that, yes, people look down on black people for blackness and for the black race, but that is not respective of someone's skin tone. It's irrespective of whatever complexion you are. The way it is if it's in you, and people know of it and they can see it, they will treat you negatively because of it. They don't care how light your skin is. They care about the African heritage. See, Asians, Indians, they can get darker than many black people. They will make fun and be racist and negative to people who are black who are lighter than them. It's got nothing to do with a skin tone. She should have learned that in Pakistan, where there were brown-skinned Pakistanis who were probably darker than her and not experiencing the same problem. It doesn't take much to actually think of other people and think of what you're really dealing with, rather than trying to just be so basically wrapped around an issue like skin tone when it wasn't even skin tone to begin with that was the problem. With that all in mind, I also wanted to say something else. She was talking about there's colorism in East Africa or something like that. It makes no sense. The lady is talking about Sudan. But she was only born there. She wasn't even really living there. And even if she's saying she knows from experience because she's of those people, you don't know anything about Ethiopians. You don't know anything about Somalians. I will say, yes, the Somalis have had slavery that was in part racially based, but many Ethiopians vary in phenotype. So it's very hard to really say that Ethiopians are colors when you don't even know Ethiopians that well because you've never been to Ethiopia, one, and you don't know Ethiopian people like that. You can't just make a large, assumption on people in East Africa. And I would like to say, I have been in neighborhoods with lots of Ethiopian people. They don't seem hateful to me, but hey, I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm not going to say they're not. I'm not going to say they are. I've never lived there. She's never lived there. Stop making assumptions about people. So, that's all I have to say in this video. She didn't seem like she was very smart or that she thought about what she was talking about before she talked about it, or the depth of what her experiences were. She kept using colorism for racism. Know your definitions. So that's all I have to say. Thank you and bye.